Hello everyone, welcome to the staff wellbeing presentation for teachers and education staff. My name's Lauren. I'm a mental health practitioner in the mental health support team in schools. This is my colleague Emma.
My name's Emma Gregg. Hello everyone. I'm also a mental health schools practitioner with the mental health support team.
Just to say, so we're a tier 2 CAM service.
So we wanted to start by saying that we understand and we're mindful of the fact that schools will already have loads of expertise and resources and ideas on staff wellbeing and lots of things that already will be in place and working really well in terms of supporting staff in your school. And what this resource is it's basically just an opportunity to reflect on and discuss staff wellbeing on an individual level. Maybe if you're accessing this in groups, it's an opportunity for you to talk with your colleagues about staff wellbeing and what's working for you, or if you're accessing this individually on your own, just to have a think about how it's going in your workplace. It's an opportunity to acknowledge the things that are working really well and to build on these. And you can see there a list of what we cover in the resource. So to kick us off, need to take a moment to, again, if you're sort of accessing this on your own, just to have a little think to yourself, maybe write down your responses to the questions we've got on the screen there. But if you are with your colleagues, this is an opportunity for you to take about 5 minutes to discuss together your thoughts on those 3 questions. And they are, the first one there, why does staff wellbeing in schools matter? What do you think staff wellbeing looks like? And the third one is, what do you do to support your own wellbeing? And maybe we can sort of get you thinking by answering that third question ourselves. So Lauren, what do you do to support your own wellbeing?
Yeah, so more recently, sort of during the lockdown, I have been taking up sort of a daily yoga video practice. So there's a yoga teacher on YouTube I really like. So she's kind of got a monthly calendar, which has sessions every day. So I sort of follow along with that, and they range from sort of 10 minutes to 50 minutes actually. So I try and make time to do a bit of yoga every day, which I've definitely noticed a difference in my well-being actually, and having sort of that space. What about you, Emma? What have you been doing to support your well-being?
That sounds really good. And yeah, yoga's so good, isn't it? For our well-being. But I suppose mine's really simple. It's just making sure that I'm actually getting an early night. It's such a simple one. Yeah. But I exhausted the other day. I went to bed early and I felt so much better the next day, and I was just like, oh yeah, I actually do need to get some good sleep. And it makes a huge difference. So a really simple one, but I've just been reminded about how important it is and how helpful it is to get a good night's sleep. So yeah. Yeah, now's your opportunity to have a go, discuss as a group your answers to that question, or if you're on your own, just write down your responses. So please pause this recording and discuss that, or write down your ideas. Okay, so hopefully that was a good exercise that helped you to get thinking about the topic of staff wellbeing and your own wellbeing, and sort of how that's going and what you do to take care of that. So yeah, we're sort of moving on to focus on why staff wellbeing matters. Why do we want to talk about this today? Why is this an important topic? And just to start with thinking about some research that that Mind did. Experience of mental health problems such as anxiety and depression, so it is very common. The research that was conducted also told us that more than 1 in 5 workers said they had called in sick to avoid work when asked how workplace stress had affected them. 14% said they had resigned due to workplace stress, and 42% had considered resigning due to workplace stress. And 30% of staff disagreed with the statement, "I would feel able to talk openly with my line manager if I was feeling stressed." So it might be quite nice for you to sort of have a think about that statement there, and I wonder whether you feel that you would agree with that statement, that you do feel you could talk to someone if you're feeling stressed at work, or whether you disagree with it. And now having a think about some more reasons why staff wellbeing matters, and these are all things that we know and that are probably talked about quite a lot, but it's really helpful, I think, to be reminded of them. Is that obviously it improves staff morale and performance. It reduces sickness, absence, and staff turnover. So it's such an important thing and a really sort of valuable thing to prioritise. Enables staff to offer better support to pupils and colleagues. And help staff to better manage the demands of working in a school. We all know how challenging working in education can be, and that makes staff wellbeing sort of that, for education staff, that bit more important, doesn't it? And I think really importantly as well, it builds a positive whole school approach to wellbeing. So other staff members and the pupils and the parents, they all can see that well-being and mental health is something that can be cared for. It's something that we can speak about. We don't have to be silent about it, and it's something that we value. And it really helps to kind of promote that positive whole school approach.
Okay, so next, if we have a think about the signs of stress that people may experience. So it's important to remember, everybody sort of experiences stress differently. We kind of have different signs that we're stressed. These are some of the common ones. So feelings. So we can start to feel irritable, anxious, experiencing low mood or low self-esteem. Our thoughts can change, so kind of constant worrying, finding it difficult to concentrate, imagining the worst, having really quick racing thoughts. We may notice that our behaviours are different, so having kind of temper outbursts, changes to our appetite and our eating habits, increased drinking or increased smoking, talking really fast, it can be forgetfulness, or that feeling of just sort of feeling always on the go. Your mind's kind of holding a lot of information. And again, another really common one is sort of those in our body, so having headaches, sweating, stomach aches, feeling dizzy, having a dry mouth or muscle tension. I thought it'd be good to sort of have a think about if any of those sort of resonate with you. It's really important to have a think, which site, like, to be able to identify when you're feeling stressed, what it is that you feel. So you're able to sort of identify that as actually, yeah, I am feeling quite overwhelmed and stressed at the moment, and to look out for those signs. So going on from that, so having a think about how we know when anxiety is becoming a problem. So these are psychological signs that anxiety is getting in the way of everyday life. So it could be noticing that your mind's preoccupied by troubling experiences or stressful events, feeling that you're on the edge and alert to everything around you, trouble staying focused, or having kind of difficulty concentrating at work. Having trouble falling asleep can be a really big one. Kind of feeling restless throughout the day. Avoiding anxiety-provoking situations, so maybe not doing things that you'd like to be able to do because anxiety is getting in the way. Having really worrying thoughts that you might die, or feeling that people are looking at you and observing your anxiety. So going on to the physical symptoms of anxiety, as we kind of mentioned earlier, it can be shallow breathing or faster heartbeat, feeling dizzy, feeling sick, having tension, headaches, shaking, experiencing a dry mouth, increased muscle tension, or, hyperventilation, excuse me there. So over breathing. So now we've got a video for you, which is a headspace mini meditation. Unfortunately, we aren't able to play the video in this recording, but we've put the link down below. So if you click that, pause us, and then restart us once you've watched the video.
Okay, so hopefully you've just watched that mindfulness video, and that was a helpful, well, a nice maybe pause in the day and a helpful reminder how so we're going to move on now to thinking about your strengths as individuals and also as a staff team. So what we'd like you to do is to, again, if you're accessing this recording in groups with your colleagues, then if you could get into small groups and discuss the questions that we have on the slides. And if you're on your own, then maybe you could have a think and sort of write down your answers to this. And the first question there is, what do you do well as a school or individually? And I think it's really sort of relating to well-being. And we've given a few examples there. It might be humour, it might be sort of you're really good as a staff team at sort of socialising and organising social events together. It might be you're really good at sort of creating like a reflective space. Any of those, there are just some examples there. So take this opportunity to discuss together and identify what you do well and what kind of qualities you have as a staff team which are really working. And there's also the second question there, which is how can you build on the strengths that you've identified to better support your own or your team's well-being? So if you pause this video now and you have a discussion in small groups, and then come back to the recording and play it again in 5 minutes or however long you need. Okay, so hopefully that was a useful discussion. I think it's so important to have the opportunity to identify what's going well and strengths as a staff team, because it can be so easy just to focus on the things that we want to change. And hopefully it's also given you some ideas on ways to build on those. So sort of following on from that, with having a think about what's already in place in school, and just again sort of identifying what's already going well. However, this might give you some ideas of what you might want to introduce as well, if some of those examples we put down are ones that you actually don't have in the school already. So have a think and write down anything that your school is already doing to support staff wellbeing. For example, does your school have a staff wellbeing strategy? How is wellbeing promoted in your school? Is it a topic that's discussed regularly? Is there peer support, mentoring or buddy schemes? Is there a designated staff wellbeing area on the notice board in the staff room? I know loads of staff rooms have that, and that's great. Maybe there's a staff wellbeing champion. Maybe you have check-ins with your colleagues, whether that's kind of formally or informally. And throughout this presentation, do write down any ideas that come up of things that you might want to add in to the sort of staff wellbeing support on top of the things that you have already in place. Okay, so we have another video here. So once again, I think the link would have been provided to you. It's a short video from BBC Teach, where teachers talk about their experiences of mental health and wellbeing in the workplace. And So if you pause this recording and watch the video, and it might be really nice as well to give yourself a bit of time after watching the video to reflect on the video as a staff team in small groups. And it'd be really good to sort of discuss together what resonated with you from the video. We've got a question there actually, which is whether your school could invite a speaker to talk about their mental health, or even whether anyone from the staff team is willing to talk about their own experience of mental health and sort of well-being, their own experience of that, whatever that may be, and having someone from the staff team could be a great way of sort of reducing stigma and sort of helping to really normalise mental health difficulties and well-being. But yeah, do watch the video and come back to the recording again once you've finished.
Brilliant. So yeah, as Emma said, I hope you enjoyed that video and found it interesting to reflect on. So now we're going to have a look at ways that we can increase our personal well-being. So the NHS website outlines 5 steps that are evidence to improve mental well-being. These are things that could help you feel more positive and able to get kind of more out of your life. So the first one we'll look at is being active. So as we know, being active improves well-being by raising our self-esteem. It can help with setting goals and achieving them, and being active causes the chemical changes in our brain, which can help us positively change our mood. So having a think about some small activities that you can add to increase or to your working day. So it could be sort of taking the stairs instead of the lift, or just walking a little bit further to work, parking a bit further away. They all sort of add to your increase in daily activity. So there's a link down there to the NHS website, which has the resource to exercise. So having a look at some other ways that you can add more exercise and activity into your day. The next one is taking notice. So this is about being in the present moment. So paying attention to the present moment and being aware of your thoughts, feelings and body and the world around you. This can be as simple, as closing your eyes, sitting quietly for 5 minutes and focusing on your breathing or the sounds that are around you. It doesn't have to necessarily be sort of sitting still and meditating. It could also be when you're going for a run, or when you're out for a walk in a nice park, when you're gardening, when you're cooking. And there's also cues that you can have to be mindful. So, that pause that you have when you're boiling the kettle, and when you're doing the washing up and you feel kind of the hot water and the soap on your hands, whilst you're waiting for the computer to load, or even walking up the stairs. So it can be taken in all those kind of everyday moments in life. It's more just, being aware of what you're doing in the present moment, and not sort of thinking about what you've got to be doing later on, or what you're going to have for dinner. And so this kind of taking notice is also known as mindfulness, really. And it can be classed as sort of spiritual self-care, and in line with meditation, yoga, being in nature, sort of following a faith, or whatever this means to you. So here we've got a mindfulness practice. So, well, actually we've got a few different ones. So I'll just run through some of them. So the first one is pause. This is a really simple one. So just pause, check in how you're feeling, ask yourself what's happening right now, what are my thoughts, emotions, and where am I feeling these sensations within my body. The next one we'll talk about is coming to the breath. So again, this is a nice simple one. So it's just about focusing on your breathing. So you could put your hand on your stomach and notice where the breath starts. Follow your breath. Just remember there's no need to control it. You can just trust it and be kind to yourself. And remember that whatever you're feeling is okay. There's also lots of mindfulness practices on apps. and on YouTube. So you can kind of follow along to these guided meditations and just help you bring yourself into the present moment. Emma,
sorry. Yeah, over to me. So the third sort of way to improve our mental well-being is staying connected, which is something that I think we all know, but it's helpful to have that reminder and to think about the different ways in which we can stay connected to others. So drawing upon structures and support already in place in the staff team, such as supervision, letting our colleagues know what we need. So that's sort of staying connected within our staff team, making sure that maybe we do feel that there are other people who understand maybe how we're feeling that day, other people in the workplace, and if we need whatever it may be that we need, letting somebody know within our staff team. And having check-ins with colleagues throughout the working day, asking them how they are, and having just those moments where you just feel that a little bit more connected, and you're not necessarily talking about work, but you're sort of talking about how you're sort of finding everything and feeling, and that can be helpful in terms of staying connected. And obviously arranging to meet friends that we've not seen in a while. Identifying our support network can be a helpful thing to do, and having a think about actually who are the sort of people around me that I can go to when I'm having a difficulty. And the point there at the bottom, and sort of not always relying on technology, which has been so hard, I think, to do in during COVID and lockdown, because we've really had no choice but to rely on technology for a lot of the time. But knowing that when we do have the opportunity to go and see someone face to face, that can be really helpful in just adding to that feeling of being connected to others. I know that I've been finding that sort of face to face contact sort of helps me to feel that bit more connected. And the fourth way to improve mental well-being, and maybe one of the slightly more surprising ones, or certainly surprisingly effective, is giving to others. And this improves our sense of well-being because it promotes a sense of usefulness, helps us to feel more connected to others, and often helps us to feel like we're aligned with our values. And that could look so many different ways, and it may be something that you want to discuss as a team together, sort of what might that look like, how can we give to each other as a staff team, how we can give to others. It could be as simple as thinking about how often do we sort of give each other sort of praise and compliments and say thank you, and those sort of small things can be obviously. It's always nice to hear those things, but it's also improves our mental well-being to be the person giving those things as well. And the fifth one is keeping learning. I think many of us know that sort of learning a new skill can improve our mental well-being. We also really want to encourage you to take pride in the skills that you developed during down and COVID, and lots of people have been put into situations where they've had to very quickly adapt and learn new skills, and it could be sort of learning how to deliver a lesson sort of virtually, or anything like that, maybe teaching a different subject. So just sort of stopping and taking pride in that, and acknowledging that that's not been easy, and that actually so many people have achieved a huge amount due to lockdown and coronavirus. One thing that could be helpful with this is sort of noting down one or two things that you've achieved or overcome in that day. I think because we can sometimes overcome something quite big, but we often don't stop to really acknowledge that within ourselves, or to sort of take pride in it, and to feel proud of ourselves for doing that. So yeah. Oh, this is me as well. So we're going to move on to have a think about self-care in the workplace, and making time for self-care is really important. And we all know that working in a school is a really difficult environment to make time for self-care because it's so busy, and even going, for a toilet break can sometimes be challenging because you've got to leave the classroom. And but it's just really thinking about prioritizing that and knowing that that's really important, and that almost giving ourselves permission to do that, knowing that it's okay to take those breaks. And we've also got a couple of questions there about the staff room and sort of space for staff in school. It might be quite a good opportunity for you to pause the recording and have a discussion in your small groups again about what do we think of the staff room. I mean, obviously, sort of we're all, we're limited by funding, but is there anything that we can do to sort of improve the staff room, or are there things that we just really like about it and it's actually fantastic and we just want to sort of celebrate that? So yeah, do pause the presentation and have a discussion and reflection about what's good about the staff room and what might be improved. And having a think now about emotional self-care, I think we've been talking quite a lot about the sort of physical self-care and doing things like exercise and external things like the staff room, but I think what's really important is also that we're aware that part of supporting our own well-being is having a think about what's going on inside our minds and some of the thoughts that we're having, and looking after ourselves and maintaining well-being requires us to be kind to ourselves, which is not always easy thing to do. I think sometimes we can be really good at being kind and compassionate to other people, and we can find it a little bit harder to give that same compassion to ourselves. But self-compassion can really sort of really boost our well-being. Actually, it can be really really effective. Include forgiving ourselves when we make a mistake, which it can be so hard within a work context, can't it? But it's a really important thing to do. And some things that we can do to support our own emotional self-care is we might want to go and see a therapist. That could be a really positive action we could take for ourselves. Maybe just concentrating on sharing our feelings with another person that we trust. Maybe writing, that can be really effective. Some people love sort of journaling and writing. Maybe creating art. All these things can sort of support that part of ourselves and that need within us. And there's a little bit more there on self-compassion, that this is something that we can practice, and we need to practice thinking differently sometimes if we notice maybe some less compassion or some more sort of negative thoughts in our mind. We've got a video on the next slide that actually talks a little bit more about this, but it's really thinking about how we can counter some of the negative messages that we notice that we give ourselves, and sort of countering them with sort of positive facts or positive truths. An example might be, oh, I made that mistake and everyone was laughing at me. Whereas we might think to ourselves, actually, did I see anyone laughing at me? No, I didn't, and that's a fact. And sort of actually thinking about the evidence for the negative thought. Another thing we can do is ask ourselves what we might say to our best friend if they had this worry or this thought or this experience. The chances are we would be a lot more compassionate and maybe be more constructive as well. But I think the video on the next slide talks a bit more about that.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you, Emma. So we've got a video from another mental health charity, Every Mind Matters. And as Emma said, it's sort of a video that talks about reframing negative thoughts and how to encourage positive self-talk. So again, if you want to pause the video and click the link, and then you can restart us once you've watched it. Okay, so next we'll have a little think about ways to combat stress and helping with stress, and some strategies for this. So keeping a stress and worry diary, some people can find really helpful, you know, rather than kind of carrying those stressful thoughts around all day, or feeling like that you're holding quite a lot in mind. Writing that down on a piece of paper, some people find quite helpful as a way to kind of get those thoughts out of their head and, you know, out of their mind, and a way to kind of process those a bit better. Brainstorming ways to approach stressful, provoking situations differently can also be helpful. So that can be problem solving. If you have a situation that you're particularly worried about, kind of thinking, you know, what is it that I'm worried about? And again, sort of thinking about the facts. How likely is it that that will happen? And what else can you do to kind of to work around that? Remembering that it's okay to say no. I think we're often very inclined to sort of be very helpful, polite to other people, and often want to say yes a lot of the time. But keeping in mind, you know, how much capacity do you have? Will it be, you know, more stress? Will it be too overwhelming to kind of accept another task or another invite somewhere? You know, it's remembering it is okay to kind of to say no to some things and take some time for yourself. Making time for things that you enjoy, again, so whether that's with other people or you know, time on your own, they're so important to, you know, to combat stress. Having activities or kind of things that you get enjoyment from. Rest, again, is really essential to mental well-being and reducing stress. So as Emma spoke about earlier, practicing good sleeping habits. So we know that waking up and going to bed at the same time each night is fantastic. Avoiding caffeinated drinks before bedtime, having like a really good kind of bedtime routine, so winding down before bed. That could be having a bath, reading a book, doing some light stretches, and limiting the phone and social media use before bed. I think there's quite a lot of sort of evidence out there that switching off sort of devices an hour before bed really helps promote sleep, because of the blue light that's emitted from sort of devices, stops the production of reduces the production of melatonin, which is the chemical that helps us fall asleep. So yeah, off phones an hour before bed. Next we have got, this is me, so helping with stress and so talking about gratitude, talking in gratitude. So talking to someone about how we're feeling, which could be a friend, a colleague, a therapist, your GP, or an online platform such as education support platforms, can be really helpful. Noticing positives in life and practicing gratitude has been shown to really reduce stress levels. One thing that's suggested is try to do a regular gratitude list by writing down 3 beginning of the day, sort of when you wake up in the morning, or on your way to work, and at the end of each day, so before you go to bed as part of the bedtime routine. So, or it could be kind of 3 things that went well each day. So other ways to help with anxiety, so identifying which behaviours are adding to anxiety, having to think about, are there any of these things that you're able to reduce? Again, having that worry session time, so writing down your worries. Relaxation techniques, so breathing slowly through your nose for 5 seconds and out through your mouth for 5 seconds. As you're doing this, saying the word relax or calm, and doing this until your body starts to kind of feel that ease. You can draw upon your existing resources, so what's worked well in the past, when you felt less anxious. And just to say, if you're really experiencing sort of persistent anxiety, then going to your GP can be really helpful to, seek that extra help and support if it's not something that you feel you're able to manage sort of by yourself. And it's always best to kind of get in at an earlier stage before problems kind of persist and escalate. So now we have another video. So this is also focused on reducing anxiety and focusing on what we are able to change. So this video is sort of based on the acronym of COVID. It is really helpful in sort of lockdown situations and the restrictions that we've been facing this year. However, it's also helpful just to sort of apply outside of this too. And this video is based on the principles of a therapy called ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. So again, pause the video.
Okay, we felt that it would be sort of fitting for sort of obvious reasons to include a slide on health anxiety, as we are aware that it may be something that is more of a prevalent issue for people at the moment as a result of COVID. So it's just a brief slide on how to identify it and a couple of things that might help. So thinking about how we can identify health anxiety, what it can look like is, or signs of health anxiety is include worrying about health excessively to the point that it affects how you live your life. Physical symptoms include increased heart rate and stomach problems. That could be a sign if it's linked to the other symptoms and the thoughts. Seeking reassurance in family regularly, friends, family and health professionals regularly around sort of health. And if that's something that you're doing, you want to sort of have a think about sort of what's happening for you there. It also might include checking or scanning your body for symptoms, sort of physical health symptoms, and also avoiding things that remind you of illness or that you feel like might make you ill. That could also be a sign, so that sort of avoidance that comes often with anxiety. And a couple of things that can help with this. One thing you can do is to keep a diary to note down how often you ask people for reassurance, how often you check your body, how often you look for health information online, and this might just help you to sort of paint a bit of a picture of what's happening in your mind and whether this is becoming a bit of a problem. So it kind of can give you a real sense of the pattern of these thoughts, but it can also give you something to work towards. You could say, okay, I can see that I'm doing that this many times a day, and now I can work on trying to reduce that. And so it kind of just can really help it make it a little bit clearer and help you to sort of work towards a goal. Also sort of gently challenging these thoughts. So as we said before, sort of considering the evidence can be really helpful. Considering the likelihood of the feared scenario, and considering other causes for perceived symptoms, such as if we have a headache and we start to worry that it's something very serious, a very serious health problem. Actually thinking, well, what are reasons why what are some other reasons why I might have a headache? There's many reasons, and sort of just having a think about that can gently sort of challenge the thoughts and the health anxiety. And also trying to continue or get back to normal activities where possible. So obviously within the boundaries of the sort of government guidelines around COVID, sort of what can we be doing? Are we able to meet socially distance with a friend? And if we are able to do that, then trying to sort of encourage yourself to do that and not sort of avoiding those situations, but sort of keeping that sort of contact going so that we don't get really unused to it. Might make it harder, but yeah, so there's just some of the, just a little bit there about health anxiety. And finally, we want to finish on a slightly sort of lighter note, that we really want to acknowledge how important it is that staff have a good time together, have fun together, find ways to socialise. We know that humour is a healthy coping mechanism and an effective tool to ease anxiety and stress. So as you can see, we popped in a couple of teacher and school related memes, and something as simple as sharing memes with each other can really actually make a massive difference. I think we've been finding that sometimes during lockdown. And having a think about what opportunities there could be for staff to participate in activities with colleagues that aren't linked to work. One idea could be to set up a sort of social box in the staff room where staff can sort of put in their ideas of what they might want to do as a social, and whatever that could be. And even setting up a staff WhatsApp group, if that hasn't been done already, that can be a nice way for staff to just sort of connect and socialise and have a nice time together outside of the working day or working space. And just to say that you may want to pause the recording and actually have a chat in your small groups about ways that you can have fun together as a staff team and what sort of social events or activities you might want to do together. And now we're sort of on to those last few slides where this one's looking at further support. So if you feel that you do need or would like some more support around mental health or wellbeing, there's a whole load of sort of services and contacts there. We'd really encourage anybody to reach out and get some more support if you feel like you would benefit from it in any way. And here are some resources as well. If you're interested in sort of looking into any of these areas in more detail, mindfulness, anxiety, stress, sleep problems, do make use of those resources. And some more sources and resources that went into the presentation, if you're interested. And lastly, this is an Action for Happiness calendar. It's November, which might not be the month that you're looking at this at. However, if you just go on the website, there's the link there. You can get the most recent calendar. And what it is basically for every single day of the month, you've got a different, very small, manageable sort of thing that you can do for your own well-being. Could even be something that's put up in the staff room. So thank you very much for listening to us and for accessing this recorded presentation, and we hope that you found it helpful.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. We hope we've reminded you of some strategies that may be helpful. All the best. Bye.
Bye.